Hello, happy Tuesday. We are talking today about the government shutdown and how we can proceed in light of our immigration filings. So this video is designed for employers, HR contacts, foreign nationals, anyone who is involved in the system and the process of filing within the U.S. immigration system. And I'm here to tell you the takeaway that I would like for you to have, if nothing else, is that yes, the government is down, and yes, there absolutely are things that we can do during this time. We can still file certain petitions and applications, and we can still prepare for strategic steps to make the most of this time so that we're ready to hit the ground running when the government does reopen. So let's talk first about what is paused for now. As you probably know, the Department of Labor is closed. That means we can't file LCAs, which are labor condition applications, which are required for H-1B filings, and we can't file prevailing wage requests or perm labor certifications. Those are all the perm labor certification, the prevailing wage requests, and perm labor certifications are part of the employment employment-based green card process. So we're not able to file those, and they're not being processed by the Department of Labor because the Department of Labor is shut down. That is not amazing news. It's not fantastic because that means that we cannot file labor certification. We can't file the labor certifications. We also can't file the labor condition applications, meaning we can't file H-1B transfers, amendments, extensions, that type of thing, unless for some reason we already have a certified LCA, labor condition application. So here's the takeaway for that. We need to make sure that we have clear communication with the individuals that are affected. So that means the employers and the individual employees or foreign nationals who are affected, who perhaps are looking to file an H-1B transfer. The start date is going to need to be pushed back because we're not able to file that labor condition application or LCA with the Department of Labor as of right now, while the government is closed. Of course, no one knows when the government is going to reopen. And we'll talk in a few minutes about what we can do in the meantime to prepare. So that's what is paused right now. In addition, E-Verify is shut down, so we're not able to access that system. That does not mean that employers don't have to do I-9s right now. Yay, you do have to complete I-9s. You have to go through that process. But you're not able to access E-Verify right now. So it would be paper I-9s for right now until the system is, the government is reopened and we're able to access that system. So what is still running? What are we able to still file? We absolutely are able to file petitions and applications with USCIS. That is the immigration agency here in the United States. It is fee funded and it is still open and operating. So we can file petitions that don't require an LCA. So that would be things like ATN, an I-140, I-485s, that type of thing. Or if we have, like I said, there are some situations, even in our practice or including in our practice, where we do have a valid LCA, labor condition application, that's required for an H-1B filing, perhaps an amendment, for example, depending on the details of the amendment. But there are certain situations where we have an existing LCA that we can use. So there are narrow exceptions for things like the H-1Bs, the E-3s, the H-1B ones that require an LCA. But for the most part, those are going to be put on hold. But like I said, we can file other things like E-2s, TNs, basically any number R1s, any number of letter visas, if you will, that do not require the LCA, which there are a good number of those. In addition, like I said, we can file the employment-based green card type filings. So the I-140 petitions, the I-485s, assuming the priority state is current, we absolutely can still file those with USCIS. In addition, family-based cases absolutely are still proceeding. So we in our office are actually initiating a good number of marriage-based cases, whether that's an I-130 and I-45. We call those one steps. So that's for individuals who are here in the United States. They have entered the United States with permission, they are married, and they're ready to file that green card. We absolutely can get that underway and go ahead and file with USCIS now. In addition, if there are family members who are overseas and a client or prospective client would like to sponsor them, we absolutely can begin that process as well. Now, those processes are not being affected. In addition, U.S. consulates, for the most part, are still open and operating. They say they may have limited services depending on how long the shutdown lasts. But as of right now, we have clients who are applying for visas on a daily basis and are able to enter the United States. One further note about that, just because I know that this is at the top of everybody's head, we are seeing with the $100,000 H-1B fee, the proclamation that came out about a month ago, we are seeing that individuals who filed a petition, who had an H-1B petition filed before September 21st of 2025, that's kind of the key date, are being issued visas without having to pay that fee. So that is holding true. If you have a petition approved before, that was not even approved, but filed before September 21st, 2025, those individuals are not having to pay that $100,000 fee to have the visa stamped. So consulates are still operating, so we're ready to roll there. What do you do if you are in a situation where you can't file? So let's say, for example, a perm labor certification, you're not able to file it, or a prevailing wage, which is part of the process, the preparation process for that perm labor certification. What is it that you can do right now? Just because the government is closed does not mean that you need to just shut down all of your thinking about immigration. In fact, the opposite. This is a great time, a great opportunity to strategically plan ahead. So if you are a business owner, an HR professional, if you are responsible for immigration within your organization, or if you are a foreign national who is interested in taking further steps, or you need to take further steps within your immigration journey, this is a great time to take advantage of the shutdown, take a moment, and think about what you need to do to be ready to roll as soon as the government reopens. So that is things like, if you are an employer, HR representative, if you're in global mobility, we need to be looking at expirations that are coming up. Meaning if you have a current H-1B petition, and like I said, if it's something else like a TN or a E2, something like that, those extensions can still be filed. But for H-1B extensions or other visa classifications like H-1B1 or E3, where the LCA is required, let's make a list of the expirations that are coming up so that we'll know exactly who it is that we need to file as soon as the government reopens. Same thing with transfers or H-1B amendments. Let's have that list ready to go. In addition, there is preliminary work that we can do while we are waiting for the government to reopen, however long that takes. So for example, if you have an H-1B transfer that you're ready to initiate, or even an extension, we can go ahead and make sure that we have that job title nailed down, the job duties, the salary. Even though the Department of Labor website is closed, we do have access to, through other means, to salary information. So we can go ahead and nail down that information so that as soon as the government reopens, we're ready to draft that LCA and submit it and get everything underway. We could even prepare forms and a support letter ahead of time. So there absolutely are things that we can do now so that we don't waste time waiting for the government to reopen. In addition, in terms of the green card process, so there are some green card processes, and depending on where you are in the process, that are not dependent on the government being closed. So if you are filing something like a national interest waiver or an EB-1A, and we don't handle that type of case right now, just FYI, but if you're filing that, you're not affected. You can go, if you're preparing that, you are not affected by the government shutdown, and you can go ahead and proceed. Even if it is a perm labor certification based process, we absolutely can take proactive and productive steps right now. So that includes things like, depending on where you are in the process, we are still filing I-140 petitions. We absolutely are filing I-485 applications where the priority date is current. And even within the perm process, there are things that we could do now. So for example, if you are ready to initiate a perm labor certification, perhaps for an employee, we can go ahead and start that process now. There is a lot of, or some groundwork that we need to lay before we file that prevailing wage request with the Department of Labor. Things like, again, nailing down the job duties, the job title, the work site location, looking at ability to pay, predicting what the wage will be, and making sure that the employer has the ability to pay. Those are all preliminary steps, preparation steps that we would be taking anyway when we initiate a perm labor certification. So we're still able to do those things, even though the government is closed. We don't need to put everything on hold just because the government is closed right now. So we can get everything prepared, get it to the point where we're ready to submit the prevailing wage request as soon as we can. In addition, we are prevailing wage request when the government reopens is what I'm trying to say here. So there are things that we can do to take advantage of this time that we have available to us while the government is shut down. In addition, we are still actively working on perm labor certification cases that we have. There's some recruitment that is going on. And then as soon as that's complete, we'll be ready to file the perm labor certifications. We file them online with Department of Labor. So we'll be able to file those as soon as the government reopens. So there absolutely are things that we can do, strategic, productive, meaningful, effective moves that we can take right now to take advantage of this time that we have available. If you have questions about how the government shutdown is affecting your particular case, your ability to initiate a case, or really other questions about anything relating to family-based or employment-based immigration matters, put those questions in the comments here. I will answer them as I can. I can't give legal advice through this forum. So we may respond and say, hey, you need to set a time for a consultation, which we're happy to do as well. But if you have questions, put them in the comments and we're happy to help you as much as we can. My name is Emily Sumner with Sumner Immigration Law. If you found this information helpful, I hope that you will share this video with a family member, colleague, or a friend. Comment on it, like it, share it. Make sure you're subscribed to this platform so you don't miss our next video. My name is Emily Sumner with Sumner Immigration Law. We assist clients with family-based and employment-based immigration matters from around the country and around the world. Until next time.